What if, right now, at this very second, the greatest danger to your future is not your enemies, not the economy, not the competition, but your own success? What if everything you worked for, every sacrifice you made, every sleepless night that built you, was slowly becoming the very thing that destroys you? History's greatest minds studied this. They found something terrifying. The majority of people who reach the top don't fall because they stop working. They fall because they stop being hungry. The moment success arrives, it brings something far more dangerous than failure ever could. It brings comfort. And comfort is the silent killer of every empire, every career, and every dream ever built. Today's message is not for the people still struggling to find success. This message is for the people who've already found it and are about to lose it without even knowing it's happening. If you have ever felt yourself relaxing just a little after a big win, if you've ever skipped a discipline and told yourself, "I've earned this," then what you are about to hear could be the most important thing you listen to this year. Stay until the end, because the final truth will change how you approach every single day from this moment forward. What if the very moment you finally made it was the exact moment you began to fall? Most people believe that success is the finish line, the reward for all the pain, the sleepless nights, and the relentless grind. But here is the brutal truth that nobody tells you. Success doesn't end your battle. It begins a far more dangerous one. When you were struggling, hunger was your discipline. Desperation was your alarm clock. Fear of failure was your coach. But the second success arrives, that hunger disappears. You start sleeping in. You start skipping the habits that built you. You start believing that the results will keep coming because they came before. History is full of empires, companies, champions, and individuals who rose to the top only to collapse from comfort, arrogance, and the false belief that success maintains itself. The Roman Empire didn't fall because of outside enemies alone. It collapsed from within, rotted by its own comfort. Your success works the exact same way. The discipline that took you to the top is not a phase. It is a permanent price. Stop paying it, and the top stops being yours. What if your worst enemy isn't your competition? It's the version of you that existed before success. The moment life gets comfortable, your old patterns, your laziness, your excuses, your procrastination, they don't disappear. They were simply sleeping, waiting for the exact moment you relaxed your guard. This is called the regression trap, and it has swallowed some of the greatest achievers in human history. Boxers who became world champions and then lost everything to alcohol. CEOs who built billion-dollar companies and then destroyed them through careless decisions made from comfort. Musicians who reached the top of charts and then faded into irrelevance because they stopped doing the unglamorous work that made them great. The truth is, bad habits are not defeated, they are suppressed. And success is the most fertile ground for their return, because success brings money, freedom, admiration, and ease. All the conditions that bad habits feed on. To stay disciplined after success, you must treat your old self like a relentless enemy who is always looking for a door back in. Lock every door, build new walls, and never for a single day believe that you are safe from who you used to be. What if comfort is not a place you arrive at, but a trap that grows bigger the more successful you become? Most people think the comfort zone is for people who haven't succeeded yet. They imagine that once they reach their goal, they will naturally keep pushing, keep growing, keep building. But that is the great illusion. The comfort zone doesn't shrink with success, it expands. It gets bigger, warmer, and more seductive with every achievement. When you had nothing, staying in your comfort zone meant sitting at home doing nothing. But now that you're successful, your comfort zone includes 5-star hotels, first-class flights, luxury offices, and people applauding everything you say. The danger has multiplied 1,000 times. Because now, being comfortable feels exactly like being productive. You're networking at expensive dinners. You're strategizing on golf courses. You're building relationships at events, while the real work sits untouched. Discipline after success requires the terrifying willingness to walk away from comfort, even when you've earned it, even when everyone tells you to relax, even when everything in you screams that you deserve a break. The successful person's most powerful phrase is not, "I made it." It is, "I am not done yet." What if the people cheering loudest for you are unknowingly destroying you? Applause is intoxicating. Praise feels like proof that you've arrived. When the world starts celebrating you, when articles are written about you, when people quote your words, when strangers look at you with admiration, something changes inside your psychology. You start to believe the image more than the reality. You start listening to the people who tell you how great you are instead of the voice inside you that once drove you to be great. This is not weakness, it is human nature. Even the most disciplined minds in history have been seduced by the poison of praise. The Roman generals who returned from conquests became politicians addicted to public adulation and forgot how to fight. Great writers who won literary awards stopped taking risks with their writing because they were too busy protecting their reputation. Great athletes who became household names lost their obsessive training habits because they were too busy being celebrities. The antidote is brutal self-awareness. You must learn to be deeply suspicious of applause. Not ungrateful, suspicious. Because every minute spent enjoying your reputation is a minute not spent protecting and building your results. Results are reality. Reputation is just the story people tell about old results. What if everything you believe about motivation is completely wrong? Society has taught you to chase motivation, to wait for inspiration, to act when you feel driven, to move when the energy is right. But here is the truth that separates truly successful people from the temporarily successful. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are the most unreliable resource on earth. Discipline is a system. Motivation is a weather pattern. It comes and it goes. But a disciplined person doesn't need sunshine to plant seeds. They plant in the rain. They plant in the cold. They plant when they're exhausted, heartbroken, and when nobody is watching. After success arrives, motivation becomes even more inconsistent because the burning urgency is gone. You no longer need to perform to survive. So you must replace survival-driven motivation with something far stronger, identity-driven discipline. You must reach the place where discipline is not something you do, but something you are. Where missing your work feels like missing a part of yourself. Where the day feels physically incomplete without the habits, the focus, and the effort that built your success. The most powerful sentence you can ever say to yourself is not, "I feel like doing this." It is, "This is who I am." What if the person who got you here is not the person who can take you further? This is perhaps the most uncomfortable truth in all of personal development. The mindset, the habits, the strategies, and even the identity that built your first level of success will become your prison at the next level. Success is not a single destination. It is a staircase with no ceiling, and every new step requires you to shed the skin of the person you were on the step below. The entrepreneur who built a small business through hustle must become a strategic leader at a larger scale. But hustle alone will suffocate a growing organization. The athlete who became a champion through raw training must evolve into a sophisticated performer who masters psychology, recovery, and strategy. The content creator who went viral once must reinvent their craft, their quality, and their vision to go viral again and again. Discipline after success means having the courage to look at what made you successful and ask the frightening question: does this still serve me, or is it now limiting me? It takes a rare kind of strength to let go of what worked in order to pursue what works now. Most people cling to their old identity long after it has expired. True discipline is the willingness to keep becoming, even when becoming means leaving behind the very thing you were proud of. What if the moment you finally achieved everything you worked for, the money, the recognition, the freedom, was the exact moment the real battle began? What if success, the thing you sacrificed years of your life to reach, was secretly your greatest threat? Today we are going to talk about one of the most dangerous and least discussed truths in the entire philosophy of achievement: how to stay disciplined after success arrives. Most people spend their entire lives trying to reach success. They study it, chase it, dream about it at night. But almost nobody prepares for what happens after. Nobody warns you that success changes the rules. Nobody tells you that the habits, the hunger, and the fire that carried you to the top will be tested far more brutally once you get there than they were on the climb up. Here is the truth that shakes empires. Success is not a reward that maintains itself. It is a living, breathing responsibility that demands to be fed every single day. Think about what drives a person before success: hunger, fear, necessity. When you had nothing, discipline wasn't a choice, it was survival. You woke up early because you had to. You worked harder than everyone around you because failure wasn't an option. Your back was against the wall, and that wall was your greatest coach. But the moment success arrives, the wall disappears. The urgency fades. The hunger quiets down. And in that silence, the most dangerous enemy you have ever faced steps into the room. And that enemy is comfort. Comfort does not arrive with a warning. It does not announce itself. It arrives wearing the disguise of reward, wrapped in the language of, "You deserve this." And it is right, you do deserve rest, celebration, and enjoyment. But there is a razor-thin line between receiving what you've earned and being consumed by it. Most people who fall from success don't fall in dramatic crashes. They fall slowly, quietly, one skip discipline at a time. One morning they sleep in instead of waking early. Then they skip the habit that used to be sacred. Then they stop reviewing their goals. Then they start listening more to applause than to the honest voice inside that built them. And by the time they realize what happened, they are already on the way down, wondering why the results that once came so naturally have suddenly stopped coming. The old version of you, the one that existed before success, never fully disappeared. It went underground. It found comfort as its hiding place, and it is waiting. Every time you relax your discipline, it gains ground. Every time you choose pleasure over purpose, it grows stronger. And it will keep growing until one day you look in the mirror and realize you no longer recognize the person who built what you have. Because that person was disciplined, driven, and relentless. And somewhere along the journey to success, you left them behind. So here is the question that must live inside you for the rest of your life. Not, what have I achieved? But, what am I becoming? Not, how far have I come? But how much further am I willing to go? Not, do I deserve rest? But have I done enough today to deserve tomorrow's results? Discipline is not a phase of success. It is the price of success, paid daily, without negotiation, without exception. Success is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of the most demanding chapter of your life. Every keynote we explored today points to a single, unshakable truth. The discipline that built your success must not only survive after success arrives, it must deepen, evolve, and become the very core of your identity. Guard against comfort. Suspect your praise. Confront your old self. Expand beyond your comfort zone. Replace motivation with identity-driven discipline. And never stop becoming a newer, stronger, more refined version of who you are. The world does not remember those who succeeded once. It remembers those who refuse to stop. And then comes the poison of praise, the applause of the world, the admiration of others. Never let anyone tell you that praise is harmless, because it is one of the most powerful forces capable of eroding discipline from the inside out. When people celebrate you, your brain begins to believe the image more than the reality. You start protecting your reputation instead of building your results. You start performing success instead of generating it. The greatest achievers in history, those who built and then maintained their greatness, shared one common psychological trait. They were deeply suspicious of their own comfort and deeply critical of their own praise. They treated every compliment as a debt they now owed the world to back up with more work. And then comes the poison of praise. The applause of the world, the admiration of others. Never let anyone tell you that praise is harmless, because it is one of the most powerful forces capable of eroding discipline from the inside out. When people celebrate you, your brain begins to believe the image more than the reality. You start protecting your reputation instead of building your results. You start performing success instead of generating it. The greatest achievers in history, those who built and then maintained their greatness, shared one common psychological trait. They were deeply suspicious of their own comfort and deeply critical of their own praise. They treated every compliment as a debt they now owed the world to back up with more work. True discipline after success is not about doing more. It is about becoming more. It is about having the courage to look at the habits, the mindset, and the identity that brought you to this level and asking honestly, what needs to change for me to reach the next one? Because the person you were at the bottom is not the person you need to be at the top. And the person you are at this level of success is not yet the person you need to be at the next. Growth is not optional. It is the only alternative to decline. In nature, nothing stays still. A tree that stops growing is already dying. A river that stops moving becomes stagnant. And a successful person who stops evolving begins at that exact moment to fall. True discipline after success is not about doing more. It is about becoming more. It is about having the courage to look at the habits, the mindset, and the identity that brought you to this level and asking honestly, what needs to change for me to reach the next one? Because the person you were at the bottom is not the person you need to be at the top. And the person you are at this level of success is not yet the person you need to be at the next. Growth is not optional. It is the only alternative to decline. In nature, nothing stays still. A tree that stops growing is already dying. A river that stops moving becomes stagnant. And a successful person who stops evolving begins at that exact moment to fall. Success is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of the most demanding chapter of your life. Every keynote we explored today points to a single unshakable truth. The discipline that built your success must not only survive after success arrives, it must deepen, evolve, and become the very core of your identity. Guard against comfort. Suspect your praise. Confront your old self. Expand beyond your comfort zone. Replace motivation with identity-driven discipline, and never stop becoming a newer, stronger, more refined version of who you are. The world does not remember those who succeeded once. It remembers those who refused to stop.